Have you ever wanted to renegotiate your job contract but felt a little apprehensive in doing so? Keep listening to hear about some of the strategies we've used. Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Minded MD podcast with your money best friends. I'm Dr. Lisha Taylor.
And I'm Dr. Brittne Halford.
And of course, we are here to help you build wealth and make good money decisions so you can create the life you desire with more control over your time.
Hey, Lisha, one of the most important financial tasks we do as doctors is protect ourselves, which means getting the right insurance. I recall purchasing my insurance policy just a few days before I graduated from residency. What was your experience?
So I got my insurance when I graduated from medical school right before I started residency. I actually called a few agents, but I had the best service from Pradeep Auto at PKA Insurance Group. He was super responsive and personable. Unlike some of the other agents, Pradeep actually got me quotes from all the major companies and actually took the time to explain the nuances in each of their policies. What I loved most is that he wasn't just this way for me. Whenever I would send one of my friends to him, he would not only speak to them, but he'd also let them know where to go or who to contact if there were better options or discounts available.
At PKA Insurance Group, Pradeep Auto and Matthew Peterson are independent brokers focusing on disability and life insurance. They excel in securing coverage for physicians and other medical professionals. Discounts on disability insurance can range from 10 to 40% depending on your situation. And there is now an A-plus rated carrier offering up to $10 million of life insurance without lapse. If you are very healthy with limited to no medical issues, approval is likely in 5 minutes. Reach out to PKA Insurance to discuss your disability or life insurance needs at www.pkainsurance.com or call 1-800-258-1018.
Lisha, I am super excited for the free masterclasses that we have coming up. Not only because I love meeting with women and chatting with them and teaching them about how to manage their money better, but we're doing a little bit more than that this time. We are actually going to teach women how to not only manage their money, but make more money. More money, more money, more money, more.
Me too. We have 2 masterclasses coming at you that you are not going to want to miss. Did you know that over half of people never negotiate their salary at their job? And did you also know that over 70% of employers would negotiate, but the candidates never asked for it? So we're going to teach you how to negotiate with some confidence, negotiate like a boss, negotiate with success. And we're going to be teaching you that in our first masterclass on November 12th.
And in the next masterclass, we're going to teach you how to determine which side gig is right for you and how to leverage your 1099 income to do what I love doing best is reducing my expenses. Reducing that tax expense with your 1099 income.
And so if you are someone who would really enjoy learning about different side gigs, learning about some of the perks of 1099 income and how you could use that to your advantage, please sign up to attend our masterclass. That one will take place on November 14th at 8 p.m.
So if you are interested in boosting your income at your job and outside of your job, then you definitely want to be in the building. Not only that, you will get access to our exclusive guides that are going to teach you the exact steps that you need to know how to negotiate and to pursue your passion. And you get an opportunity to ask questions. What I find most helpful during these masterclasses is really getting that personalized attention from the coaches. And your coaches are Dr. Brittne and Dr. Lisha, and we are super excited. You might be thinking that, oh, it doesn't work for my schedule. We encourage you to sign up anyways, because we will be sending out the replays, and that way you can consume the content on your own time. And we will have a follow-up session all about Q&A. So come with your questions and get answers.
That's exactly right. So they are Tuesday, November 12th at 8 p.m. and Thursday, November 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click the link in our show notes to register. It is free, and we cannot wait to see you there. All right, Brittne, what is going on over there for you in Boston?
Oh my gosh, Lisha, the house saga continues because it's been one after another. And I'm so grateful. So let me just say this. I am so grateful for this new space. My best friend came over. She's like, oh, the space looks amazing. So nice that you have all these places where my husband has his own office. I have my own office. The kids have their own space. And there's a lot of money coming out of my pocket that I did not expect to spend. Like that emergency fund. I'm like, this emergency fund is becoming depleted. So there's one repair that we knew we would have to make when we did our inspection of the home. And if anyone is in the home purchasing process, please do not forego your inspection. I found it to be extremely insightful and allowed me to make an informed decision. There was a part of the house that they used the wrong material and it was kind of like rotting out when we purchased the home. I have a really, really godsend contractor who helps me to do all things. And I asked him how much it would cost. So he kind of gave me an estimate of what it would cost. And he said about 10 grand. So I went back to Kevin. I said, okay, this is going to be about 10 grand for this house. Do we want to try to negotiate this in, but we couldn't? Or do we want to just say no to this home? He's like, Brittne, would you be upset if you lost this home for 10 grand? I was like, yeah, I would. So we went ahead and purchased a home and we had to pay that. So that was expected. But now we have to replace the stairs of the home, which is so expensive to replace the stairs. And we could wait. However, my husband, again, being kind of more level headed and less cost conscious. And I say that actually, I think sometimes he can be a little bit more cost conscious because he tries to prevent things from happening. He's like, I don't want those stairs moving into the winter with freezing ice and rain and things of that nature. We don't know what it's going to do to the integrity of the stairs, and with deliveries and our children and potentially our parents when they come, we want to try to prevent any hazards. So we will also have to replace the stairs on our home, which is unexpected and is about another 10 grand. So I'm just like, I wanted that money to go into investments or something else, you know? I guess our home is an investment, but I'm like, come on now. Yeah. So that's what's going on over here. Just dishing out 10 grands every other day. Let me know if you want one. Maybe I'll send you a check. Yes, please sign me up since everybody's just getting 10 grand from you. The HVAC, the stairs, the whatever else you keep replacing. I'll throw my name in the hat. But you know what, Brittne, two things came to mind as you were telling us about your home. Well, first of all, let me just say, I'm happy that you're getting the stairs replaced. I think you were talking about how your mother-in-law was going up and down the stairs, was a little wobbly. So I'm happy you're eliminating hazards. So that's always great. But two things came to mind. One was, man, she keeps spending more and more money on this house, which always makes me grateful to live in my apartment. But the second thing that came to mind was, wow, she must have so much money in her emergency fund that she can afford to spend 10,000 here, 10,000 there, 5,000 there. And it just made me think about how prepared you and your husband must be financially, and how that must be an amazing place to be in, where costs arise and they're inconveniences, not catastrophes. Yeah. Because for a lot of people, replacing stairs and paying 10 grand is a catastrophe for them. They're trying to think about how they're going to get the money, versus you and your husband are just thinking about what account it's going to come from and how soon you're going to be able to replace it. Right. And so I think one of the perks of being financially well is that things become inconveniences, not catastrophes, and you're really able to deal with it in a different way. There's a little less stress. Not saying that it's stress-free. I'm sure that it is stressful going through what you're going through, but it must be nice to be in that place. I'm not saying that I'm not in that place. I'm just saying, like, wow, I hear how fortunate you are. And it really, to me, really underscores the importance of financial wellness. Yeah, Lisha, thank you for being wise and non-emotional about my spend. I think having perspective is really important when you're managing your money, and trying to invert the equation and invert the perspective, because we can be very emotional, but there's an expression of gratitude. Like, thankfully, this is not a catastrophe, as you mentioned, and we have the money in the bank. Yeah, I can't do what I wanted to do with it, but we're still healthy and safe and still really being able to accomplish most of our financial goals, besides me wanting to invest this money instead of spending it on the house. So thank you for providing that perspective. No worries, no worries. So while you are navigating things in your home, I have been navigating things with my research study. And I know that you have been on the receiving end of that, because you text me and you say, Lisha, aren't we meeting? And I go, oh, I got to do something for my research study. And you say, Lisha, am I supposed to call you, or are you supposed to call me? And I'm going, oh, I got to do things for my research study. So I am in the thick of it. And it's like exciting, but stressful, but busy. I have all the emotions, right? Last week, I was working till like 9 o'clock most days. It was so funny. The janitor saw me in the research clinic, and then she also saw me the next day. She goes, Dr. Taylor, you're back. And I go, I am back. been some long days, but I'm really excited. We just started phase 1 of my research trial. And so that means I'm getting all of the college athletes into our research clinic. So we have a dedicated clinic that's just for research. And of course, they're college students. And so I'm like sending them texts and emails, trying to confirm their appointments and trying to call them. And of course, half the time they don't answer, just trying to like coordinate things with my coordinators. All of the athletes needed to have DEXA scans. And so even something as simple as a DEXA scan, which takes 10 minutes, but it's like, please take out your belly rings, your earrings, all the rings. Please come on time. Calling them like, where are you? They're like, oh, I'm 20 minutes away. I was like, your appointment was 30 minutes ago. My bad, Dr. Taylor. I'm sorry. And so it's like, okay. I mentioned that we bought all of the athletes' Aura rings. So it's like a Fitbit that you wear it on your finger. And we had some issues with that, right? Because I wanted it to be de-identified. It's a research trial. So I had to give them different email addresses and just navigating things with the Aura ring company. I mean, those people, I'm sure they love having my cell phone number pop up on their phone because I have called them so many times to navigate certain kinks. I needed to invite them to certain groups and make sure their memberships are paid, make sure their rings fit and that they were signed up correctly. And so it has been a very long process for me, but I'm very excited that we're getting things moving. So it's busy, but exciting.
Well, congratulations. And I'm just so impressed of how courageous you are to take on this research project with so many moving parts. I think whenever the process is complicated, you just think of all of the opportunities that could go wrong. I'm a QI brain too. I kind of wear that hat here at the institution that I work at. And so kudos to you because there's a lot of troubleshooting and I hope that everything goes well and you have enough students who show up in order to get all of the things.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Our first cohort, we were anticipating 16 people and I got 13 people in. So 13 of the 16 so far, and one's coming this week. So I feel really optimistic. Phase 2, we'll see. It's supposed to be 20. So we'll see how many of the 20 we actually get. Like I said, I've been working late trying to get all of these folks in and get all the things that they need, but really excited and optimistic about how things are going to turn out. All right, Brittne, do you have any money confessions or mishaps to share with us?
I don't know if this is necessarily a confession or a mishap, but it's something that I'm working through. So one of the things I really love about our audience is that, like you said, that they've helped you with your car. People have dumped it to my DMs like, oh, I heard this on the podcast. You should download this app or you should use this thing. So Podcast Nation, here is my dilemma with all of the home improvements that we have because we live in kind of like this duplex townhome-ish. It's a condo, but we have a condo association. So I'm trying to brainstorm about how to leverage this expense. And even you and I kind of talked about, should I get this new credit card called the Built credit card, which allows you to pay your homeowners association fees with that credit card and get credit card points. And I'm still looking into it, so I haven't made a final decision yet. But the reason why I couldn't put one expense on it is because we're still in this process of doing this whole refinance rate mortgage adjustment. And I can't open up any more credit cards because it's just going to make my life more complicated with sending the documents and everything to the bank. So I was not able to leverage that expense for credit card points. And I'm hoping that I can get this refinance rate mortgage adjustment done so that I can do it in time to leverage the $10,000, or if I have to split up the payments over a period of months and pay into the HOA over 3 months as we're waiting for the contractor's timeline. So I'm just trying to figure all of that out and make it all work for me.
Wait, hold on. Do we just hear another $10,000 is going to?
Oh, no.
Your HOA? Like what? That seems high. But again, I don't own a home, so maybe that's normal. I don't know. Help me out.
So the HOA is for the $10,000 for the stairs that I talked about. So this is like a special assessment. Yeah. So our HOA typically is about $275 a month, which is not too bad. But even that, I'm like, oh, well, this is $275 that I can use on this credit card moving forward. So I'm still just trying to figure out the logistics and making sure I get the timing right and making sure that it's going to be worthwhile, because I've mentioned in the past podcast episode that I was not opening up any more credit cards because things have become a bit more complicated in my life and in my wallet. And I am just still trying to figure it all out.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Actually, a couple of my really close friends called me about the Built card because not only can you pay your HOA fees on that card, but you can pay your rent on that card. And I have some friends that have pretty expensive rent. And so the ability to earn credit card points with your rent payment without paying any extra fees is really cool. So for those who aren't familiar, Built actually will set up like an ACH account for you. And so it looks like you're paying your rent from a bank account, but really you're paying it through that card. And so it eliminates any credit card fees and allows you to
earn credit card points that you can utilize for free travel, money, gift cards, whatever you want. And so that's pretty cool. And so I have a lot of friends who have opened up that Built card. And of course, I'm pretty good with credit card points. And so they usually call me. But, we may have to get our credit card guru, Dr. Devin Gimple, back on to kind of talk about that card at some point. But I hope that that all works out for you. Along those same veins, I haven't opened up any new cards, but I am utilizing points. Well, in this case, miles. So one of the credit cards that I have is a Delta credit card because I live in Atlanta and it's a Delta hub and I fly and travel a lot. So I've always had a Delta credit card. And recently I have utilized some of the Sky Miles from that card for a couple of trips. So one is I'm going to go visit some of my friends out in Los Angeles where I used to live. And so booked a round trip flight to LA and hopefully we'll be going on that soon after this episode drops. So it'll be in November. And then I also just utilized some Sky Miles for an international trip to Cabo. I've been talking about going to Cabo for a while and wanted to book a trip to Cabo before the end of the year, sort of like a relaxation sort of trip to decompress. Going with one of my girlfriends who's super excited. She's like, yes, girl, I will go to Cabo with you. Let's do it. She's like, I'm going to plan all this stuff for us. And I'm like, fantastic. So those are 2 trips, again, that I didn't have to pay for, right? A round trip flight to LA and a round trip flight to Cabo. And so just kind of underscoring some of the really cool things that you can do with credit card points and credit card miles.
Yeah, I love that. I'm appreciative. I'm like, Lisha done this. I'm going to reach out to her and pick her brain about this. Keep listening, people. You will pick up some free miles, trips, all of the things just from all of Lisha's excursions. I'm really excited that you have that trip to relax. I know how hard you've been working, and I think it's really important as we think about just physician wellness as a whole and our mental health that we give ourselves breaks and really understand the importance and prioritize that.
And Brittne, I know that it's nice to relax before the end of the year, but one of the things that I'm really excited about is our program that we're going to be opening up beginning the first of the year. So this is our program called Boost, which I think we've talked about before, but we're just really excited to tell our audience more about it. This program really has 2 main parts, right? The first part, we're going to help people learn how to negotiate better contracts at their jobs, whether you are transitioning into a new job, whether you are moving up at your current job or just in between. Really excited to help women with negotiation. And then that second part is really about helping women increase their income outside of their jobs through entrepreneurship. And so really excited to help other women, other physicians, other high income earners really learn about different side hustles that they can utilize to their advantage and ways that they can build a business to increase their income.
Yeah. This program is so great. One of the reasons why I love it is because when you think about just who we are and how we operate as women, and we're going to jump into this in the financial focus, but we don't demand our value. We sometimes feel like, oh, we should be grateful that I'm making this salary. We should be grateful for this opportunity. And one of the things that Boost will do is to help you to discover your value and articulate that value to your employer or to leverage it to build an additional source of income. So I love that we're going to help women make more money because I'm all about making more money. And I am also very, very grateful that we're going to be able to coach them through some of the mindset blocks that keep us where we are and in kind of this burned out position of sorts at times.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I think you hit the nail on the head because one of the things that I try to get my colleagues, my friends, my associates to understand is you can express gratitude and still advocate for yourself. And those 2 things are not mutually exclusive. Sometimes, as you mentioned, we think that we should be grateful for something. And we think that because we're expressing gratitude that we can't advocate for ourselves. And that's just not true. You can be grateful for the job you have, the health that you have, the family that you have, the life that you have, and still advocate to be compensated what you're worth and still make sure that your compensation matches the value that you bring.
Yes. They are not mutually exclusive. You can have both. And what I've learned is that there's a win-win everywhere, all the time, in everything that we do. Negotiating with our boss, negotiating, I hesitate to say this, but negotiating with our children, negotiating with our partners, any type of credit card company or external source, there is always a win-win. And once you shift your mindset to understand that I'm helping them as much as they are helping me, then you step into a moment in a position of power. And we want women to always operate from power.
Exactly, exactly. And the first start to learning more is our masterclass on negotiation. I'm so excited to tell the people about it. It is going to be Tuesday, November 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be having this masterclass on negotiation. We are so excited to talk about it, and we hope that you sign up. Of course, it's free. We'll put the link in a show notes for you so you can register for that, just so we're prepared for how many people might be on the Zoom. But we're so excited. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more about negotiation, if you are getting ready to advocate for yourself, whether it's a raise or a new job contract, be sure to listen in. We welcome all of you all. So Tuesday, November 12th at 8 p.m. We want to see you there.
Awesome. And if you are not in this moment where you think you're negotiating a new contract, let me tell you, we're going to be dropping some gems that will help you to get more where you are. Sometimes you don't want to transition. You just want a little bit more or a lot more. And we will help you to figure out a way to articulate that and to get that.
As physicians, one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that we secure our income, because a lot of our financial plans are contingent on our high doctor income. One of the things that you will need to do is make sure that you get long-term disability insurance.
Now, Pradeep and his team at PKA Insurance Group have a reputation for putting people over profits and always doing what's best. Do not hesitate to email PKA Insurance and his team today.
They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.
All right, Lisha. So as we're talking about this masterclass, I love masterclasses. I stand in the power pose before, and there's just so much energy. I feed off of the energy of others. I'm an introvert, but somehow during the masterclasses, I just convert into an extrovert and I feed off of the energy of the room. So I'm super excited for this masterclass and for us to have this discussion now of like why this is even needed. We know that women don't ask. We do not negotiate. And I can acutely recall that it was actually after my first job. My first job, I'm like, oh, I'm just grateful to have a job. Like, I'm a new attending. Thank you for having me. Wrong, right? I should not have done that. But for my second job, when we transitioned to Boston, I actually started to figure out, how can I negotiate? How can I make this happen? How can I not be the statistic in which shows that women actually don't negotiate? So in our financial focus, we're going to talk about some of the statistics. We're going to talk about our personal experiences and give you some tips for you to remember as you move forward.
That's exactly right. We're heading into our financial focus. And for this one today, we wanted to talk about the reality of negotiating for women. And I really wanted to start us off on some of the statistics. As I was preparing for this episode, I found some interesting statistics, Brittne. They say that across all fields, women negotiate about 30% of the time and men negotiate about 46% of the time. And, that taught me a couple things. One, that half the time, nobody's negotiating. People are just kind of accepting job offers, but that women tend to negotiate a lot less than men. So that was one of the things that I learned. The other really interesting thing was a survey about the employers. And did you know, Brittne, that 73% of employers say that they actually would negotiate, but the candidates don't ask. And that was surprising to me because it's like employers are prepared to negotiate. They're prepared to increase their offer. Even if they may put on this front, like, oh, it's standard, or, oh, we're giving you a good offer, they expect some level of negotiation. 73%, almost 3/4 of employers say that, yeah, we would negotiate. We would change some things if you asked. And so this is one of those things that sometimes you have not because you ask not. And we got to get better at asking, more effective at asking. Because, the Harvard study actually shows that when the job description actually said that the salary was negotiable, then both genders tended to negotiate pretty equally. But obviously, it's to the job's interest not to put that information on there, right? If they think you're going to accept the best offer, why would they tell you that they're willing to go higher? And so this is one of the things that I try to advocate for my friends and my associates, and hopefully even more people through our course and boost, is how to negotiate and how to do so effectively. And the fact that when you are willing to negotiate, oftentimes you get a much better package than if you had not.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing some of these statistics. They are not at all surprising to me. Just knowing how, and I'm generalizing here, so I'm sorry, but knowing how we operate as women, oftentimes, at least my personal experience is that women, we carry this double bind that we have to often be gracious and be feminine. And then how do we negotiate or how do we demand our value when those are kind of contradictory to who we are supposed to be, this persona, this reputation that is expected of us? And so when you highlighted that Harvard study, when the job description stated that salary was negotiable, both genders were equally likely to negotiate. That's because women probably thought, oh, it will not be perceived poorly if I negotiate, if I discuss a salary that feels good for me to do the work, commiserate with my effort, that this is the salary that I desire, even if it's 10, 20, 50 grand higher than what is listed. They probably felt this level of comfort that they were not going to be perceived poorly. So what I would like to dispel is that there are always opportunities. And I don't want to say that your lack of compensation that is not equal to your male counterparts is your problem. I think there's a lot of things that we need to do with policy changes, with just our employers making sure that there's equal pay across the board. And we have to understand that the systems in which we operate right now don't always work in our favor. So how do we improve the system? By improving our situation and showing another woman that this is also possible. So happy that you shared these. And I think that it lets us know that there's room for us to grow, that our employers actually are open to having this discussion, and that this is something that we should be doing just as equally as our male counterparts.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that might help us improve is to understand why we are the way we are, and really understanding and delving into some of the reasons why many women don't negotiate. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brittany. I think some of the reasons why women maybe don't negotiate is because they're afraid of losing a job offer. Sometimes there's this belief that if I ask for something to be changed, then they're going to rescind the offer. And that's simply not the case for the most part. Most jobs, like we said, expect you to negotiate. And so not doing so only harms yourself. I think another fear is that they may make the wrong impression. They may be perceived as not agreeable. They may be perceived as hard to get along with. They may be perceived as wanting too much. Some women aren't confident that they can do so successfully. Maybe they thought about changing the salary number or the amount of time that they have off, or they're changing their schedule or whatever it is. They weren't confident in their ability to do so successfully. And so they thought, oh, this conversation makes me uncomfortable. Oh, this conversation is discomforting. I'm just going to avoid it altogether. Maybe they were a little intimidated. Maybe they knew they were going to have to negotiate with somebody that intimidates them or that would give them a little pushback, and they didn't feel prepared to do so. So I think these are some of the reasons, and hopefully we can help women sort of get over this hump. Brittany, what do you think? What do you think are some of the reasons why maybe women don't negotiate?
I agree that those are definitely some of the factors that play in. I also feel that we just undervalue ourselves. Studies have shown that when there is an open position based upon that job description, if women don't meet 100% of the qualifications, then they are more likely to not apply. Right? We have to check all of the boxes. We have to make sure that we are the most perfect candidate for the role. That's not the same with men. Men, typically, if they meet 50%, okay, I'm applying for the job. This is the job for me. Hello, I'm the best candidate. We undervalue ourselves. And just a sentiment of undervaluing our efforts, our accomplishments, being self-deprecating is what leads to what you talked about, like the fear of losing a job. I'm not going to be afraid of losing a job if I know that I'm the best candidate for that job. And I know that they should be grateful that I've even applied to this role, because I can do it, and I can not only do the job, but make improvements, that I am bringing more to the table. And they wouldn't have a fear of making a wrong impression if they know the value, if they know that they are worthy, or that their accomplishments, their merits are going to present not only this opportunity, but future opportunities, and that they are really helping the employer and they can see the win-win. So I really just want to say one of the things that I've done with helping to understand and kind of to get rid of that undervaluing of myself is to just make a list. Make a list of all the things that I've accomplished. Make a list of all the problems that I've solved within my employment and outside of it. And then just think about how beneficial those things, those qualities can be to my employer. With doing that, it helps me to just feel better. It gives me a boost of confidence before going into these negotiations.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when I was prepping for negotiations at my current job, my employer, my boss actually asked me to fill out this self-evaluation survey where you like list your publications and your community engagement and all of those things. And I'm so grateful that she asked me to do that because it required me to then think back, okay, what are the leadership positions I've had? What are the community engagement events I've done? Are there any publications that I've had? Are there any features that I've had? And it just writing down that list gave me so much confidence. It was like, oh yeah, I've done all this. I deserve this raise. It just gave me so much more confidence. And so I'm actually really happy that she asked me to fill that out. Brittany, I think another thing though is that some people just don't think it will work. They don't think it's going to change anything. They've been told that their contract is standard. This is especially common for people who work for large health institutions or academic institutions. And one of my pushbacks, whenever my friends say, oh, I don't think this is going to change anything, they told me the contract is standard. One of my favorite replies to that is, well, can you add an amendment? If they say the contract is standard, I say, can you add an amendment? Right. And usually that's a good response because what they're trying to say is we have all these lawyers. We don't want to change all the language. But what they can't say is, oh, amendment. And then there's a whole sheet of paper with all the changes that I asked about. Right. And so usually they can do that. They don't want to tell you they can, but usually they can do that and they can add an amendment. And so this is one of my rebuttals whenever I get that whole, the contract is standard. And I think it's really realizing, okay, well, what are the levers that I can push? Maybe I am going to have a non-compete, but maybe a lever that I can push is the length of the non-compete and the radius. Maybe the set amount of days off is standard, but maybe something else that I can lever or push is my schedule and building in a half day or full day for admin time. Maybe the compensation is within this range, but a lever that I can push is maybe a retention bonus or a sign-on bonus. And so just understanding these certain levers, which of course we're going to get into in our masterclass, but I think this is really helpful. But I think, Brittany, this is the part where I get really nosy and ask you personal questions. I'm prepared, or maybe not. All right. So I think it's helpful for our audience, maybe, and for me personally, to understand like your experience with this. We all know that I love to negotiate. I'm always trying to get a better deal. And I think that you are like this too, but I am just curious because you've had multiple jobs. So did you negotiate your first job offer and what was that for you?
So I negotiated, not really my first job offer. I think the sign-on bonus was there and a relocation bonus. So that was one of the things that was very helpful. But the guy who was my boss, I need to text him. He was like my dad. And so he kind of helped to coach me through that. Say, oh, okay, these are some of the things that you can ask for. And I'm very appreciative of him because I would have been so nervous, right? I was just grateful to be able to go to Emory. I mean, not to say like I have a very good legacy of academic institutions, and I think that I probably should not have been grateful because I was definitely a good candidate and I do good work, but I was grateful. That's where I was. I was just like, I get to have my first job at Emory and I get to be with my husband. And so there was very little negotiation. I didn't feel like there was a negotiation because he kind of offered these additional things that were not in the contract. So I just felt very appreciative. I didn't ask for much else. Now, when I transitioned to Boston, I was a little bit older, I had more experience, and I did negotiate. And I got exactly what you said, that this is the standard, right? This is standard package. We can't adjust the salary. And it made me feel a little defeated at that time. So I'm so grateful for a friend who worked in HR, and she and I together kind of review things. I put together an email, asked for her input, and I negotiated sign-on bonus. I also negotiated some protected time at the start. And I can recall speaking with a few senior hospitalists who have been there for some time. They're like, how did you get this? First starting out, like you're new. How did you get protected time? That's atypical. And it was because I asked for it. It was because I demanded my value. And it's also because I had another woman who was there to support me and to say, hey, you should reword this like this. And I'm so grateful for her.
Yeah. Going back. So it seems like that the first job, you were very grateful, but maybe didn't negotiate as much. And then the second job, you did negotiate and were able to get more things. Do you mind talking about some of the things that you negotiated? Was it salary? I think you mentioned admin time. Were there things that really mattered to you that you negotiated at your second job that you wish maybe you had negotiated at your first one?
Yeah. So at my second job, there was a lot more nights as far as schedule. My husband will tell you, this brain, this body, this shuts down around 9 p.m. And I knew that it just wouldn't work for our family dynamics because my husband is a night person. But when we relocated to Boston, Brooke was 3 months old. I wanted to be with her at night and I was still breastfeeding at that time. So I negotiated fewer nights. Where I am in Boston, the hospital that I work for, there are multiple sites. Some of them is just a driving distance of about 30 minutes. There was one hospital that was an hour away. And I negotiated as little time there than I could possibly have because I don't like driving. You all know that. That's why I take public transportation. My car is old. I don't like driving, but I also didn't want to have this burden of, okay, let me watch the clock. I'm already watching the clock, but I have to hurry up and get home so that I can release our nanny. And traffic can be unpredictable. So I just didn't want to have that additional burden. So schedule, the location were some of the additional things in addition to the sign-on bonus and the protected time.
Let me ask you a more personal question. Thank you for sharing. And that's about the feelings of employers. You've had the experience of working at two pretty prominent academic institutions. And sometimes some of the feedback that I get from people who work at very prominent academic institutions is there's very little negotiating because the institution feels like you should be grateful to work for them. And so if your institution is in a major city, maybe you might get paid less. If you're in the more prominent institution, the less you get paid because there's just candidates lining up at the door waiting to work for them. Did you feel like you experienced that at your former job and at your current one? And how were you able to negotiate compensation in spite of that?
So the compensation, as far as the salary, is the same-ish across the board for us. So the compensation was not necessarily something that I moved the needle on. However, I knew that there were other things that still had value to me, such as my time, my energy. Also, making sure that I was just thoughtful about not only money having all of the control as far as a salary compensation. So I did not move the needle much on salary. I got the sign-on bonus and then just the protected time that, of course, was compensated. And so I am in control of my time in some regards when I'm doing the teaching. So that was really, really helpful for me. But I think one of the other aspects of this is that I interviewed at multiple institutions and got job offers for multiple institutions. So I'm like, okay, you take it or leave it. Like, I'm a good candidate. Yes, I like your institution the best because of these things. I was very interested in QI and still interested in quality improvement and patient safety. And so that's why I chose the institution that I'm working at. But I also had really good other options. And I knew that. So I stood in my power and I just figured out the things that I could creatively change. Like you said, like, could there be an amendment? What else can still bring value to my life that might not be salary compensation? And understanding that if they said no, I would just go to another great place.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think I'm taking a lot from what you stated is even though you wanted to probably change compensation, even though you couldn't, there were still other things that you could change. And I think sometimes we get so hung up on the salary number that we forget about these other things that could really make a difference. For you, it was location, right? And spending less time commuting. For you, it was also schedule, right? And spending less time on nights and having more administrative time so that you weren't then taking work home and having to basically work for free at home. And so I love that you found ways to move the needle, even if you couldn't move it as much on salary. So I love that for you. And I also think it's helpful to keep in mind that you had other offers. I think one of our biggest negotiating powers is knowing what our other options are if it doesn't work out in the negotiation. And it seems like you really had some awesome offers, which kind of speaks to the candidate that you are, which probably helps you be even more powerful in your negotiation. So I think we can take that with us and really kind of think about, as I'm thinking about what are some tips and some things that people can remember when they're thinking about negotiating, whether you're about to have a meeting with your boss or looking at certain contracts right now. I think one of the top things to remember is that the majority of employers will negotiate if you ask, and that it's normal to negotiate and employers expect you to negotiate. So that's one of my key takeaways.
Definitely. And I think once you can consider that, then it just makes it feel more normal, right? It just makes it feel so much better. So get rid of any fear or guilt. My big takeaway is that there are so many other things that have value. They may not have a dollar sign attached to them necessarily, but when you think about it, everything has a dollar sign attached to it. So when you're conceptualizing your negotiation, I would say do your research, understand kind of the feel of the employer. You can reach out and I actually had a conversation with another woman of color who's interviewing at my job. And she's like, how did this negotiation thing work? And she's like, you can use this for content on your social media at some point. It was so funny. Like, I listened to the podcast. Nonetheless, I think a lot of women are in that position. And I'm so grateful that she was able to reach out to me, right? She just emailed me, found me on Instagram and reached out to me to say, what are some of the things? What is the feel for negotiation? I think that really helped her to feel more comfortable and it gave gave her some insight on who is she actually negotiating with so that she can be creative about her ask and be very insightful about what things she desired.
Yeah. So a lot of employers will negotiate if you ask. There are other things to negotiate besides salary. Right? We talked about time, schedule, bonus structure, call. And so you really got to figure out what you want. And so you can know what things that you're willing to negotiate or want to negotiate. I think it's important to understand that not negotiating has lasting repercussions. Oftentimes, whatever our starting salary is, whenever we get a raise, is a percentage of where we started from. So if you get a 5% raise or a 10% raise, then it's going to be based on what your initial salary was. And so not negotiating that first offer could really harm you in the future, even for future raises and cost of living adjustments and things like that. And not negotiating can really perpetuate a gender pay gap, right? We know that men are more likely to negotiate. And so if they're starting at a higher place, then obviously that's going to continue throughout the job. And so you want to make sure that you're negotiating because not doing so has lasting repercussions. I think when you're thinking about negotiating, understanding what makes you unique, and you always tell people if you're not new, right? So if you did your training at the same place that you're currently working, sometimes people feel like they don't have as much bargaining power. And I would actually argue the opposite. If you are working where you used to train, then that means you know the system better than other people. Maybe you can start better. You can hit the ground running. You're starting to be more efficient and see more patients sooner. And that has value that you should advocate for. One of the things that I tell my residents, they're like, oh, Dr. Taylor, I'm just starting off. This is a good starting salary. And I go, well, the billing codes are not different if you have 20 years of experience versus one, right? We all put in the same billing codes and they reap the same reimbursements. And so you do not deserve to be paid less just because you're first year out. If you're using those same billing codes and they're making the same amount of money on you that they're making somebody else, then you deserve to be compensated. If you are more experienced, one of the things that I tell people is you're more efficient. You can see more patients. You can manage more complex issues with ease. And so that deserves some compensation. Again, I'm happy to kind of go into this during our masterclass, during our Boost coaching program. But these are some of the things that I'm telling for my friends, my advocates, things like that, that I'm hoping that they utilize to their advantage.
Yeah. Lisha, you are the master negotiator. So, you will be in great hands and in great company during this masterclass with me and Lisha as your guide. So if you have not already registered, click the link below and register for the masterclass. We're going to give all of the goodness. And if you're like, I don't need a masterclass, I'm ready for the coaching program. We also have the wait list for the coaching program in the show notes as well. And we will let you know when the cart opens. Lisha, since people on this podcast will be spending money on Boost to increase their income and monetize their passions, let's talk about how you're spending money. Are you going anywhere else? I mean, you're always traveling, Lisha. What are you doing fun with your money?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I'm going to Cabo and I'm going to LA. When I'm in LA, we're going to catch a basketball game. I have a Amex credit card, several, but one of my Amex credit cards gets me into the Amex Lounge. And there is an American Express or an Amex Lounge in crypto.com, which used to be called the Staples Center, which is, of course, where the Lakers play and all that stuff. And so my friends and I are like, let's go to the Amex Lounge. I've covered a lot of Lakers games. So I used to work for the Lakers, or I was an assistant team physician for the Lakers. Fun fact. And so I've been to crypto.com a lot, but I have not been into that lounge because usually when I'm there, I'm covering a game. So I'm in a different area. And so I'm excited to go to the stadium, go experience a game in the fancy American Express Lounge. And so very, very excited about that. Another thing that I'm doing is I mentioned I'm going to Cabo, book that trip on points. I mentioned using Sky Miles to book the flight, also use points to book the all-inclusive resort. And so those are some fun things that I'm doing. Most of these trips, like I said, are free or with points, but of course there are some fees associated sometimes. And so I think I spent maybe $100 in fees on the flight, no money in fees for the resort. And so it is very nice to be able to have some fun and not even have to spend that much money.
I love that. I love that. Yes. So learning from you, and I have not done this yet. Today is a new day for me to jump into the details and look at the flights. I am also going to be traveling soon, and it's not to Cabo or LA, but to Chicago. So Lisha, when we were at the Women in Medicine Summit, I was sick and I went to medical school at Northwestern. So I have a lot of friends in Chicago and also family, and I got to see no one because I was so sick. So we're going back as a family, and I get to see some of my girlfriends, and we're taking the kids, and I get to see how big they are. So I'm really just excited to be able to spend some money to go to a very near and dear city and do it with my family. And we're inviting my dad on this trip. I'm still in the process of convincing him to take off a day of work. And we're like, Dad, okay, this will be an early Christmas gift. We'll help you pay for it. And he was like, okay, because my dad works entirely too much. And I always try to get him to prioritize family and prioritize his own wellness, because at the end of the day, they're going to replace you at your job and you are irreplaceable with your families. So that's what I'm doing. I haven't done it yet, so I'll be spending the money tonight.
I love that for you. I love that for you. So that is amazing. Hopefully our audience got something from this episode, if not just a little inspiration from us with all the trips and things that we've got planned. Thank you so much for listening. We can't wait to come back to you next week.
Hello, and thank you for listening to our podcast. And because of that, we have something for you, our Wealthy Minds Blueprint.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I wish I could be better with money? Do you want to start investing and saving for retirement, but keep delaying because you don't know where to start? Our Wealthy Minds Blueprint is here to help.
This guide will teach you what you didn't learn in your training, so you can stop being confused about money and start taking what we call wealthy-minded action.
We'll help you become a master of your finances and simplify investing so you can get started today. Take control of your financial future by downloading your free copy of the Wealthy Minds Blueprint now and start building the wealth you deserve.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Brooke. I'm recording a little disclaimer for my mommy, Dr. Brittne Halford, and her friend, Dr. Lisha Taylor. Just so you know, they're not financial advisors, tax professionals, lawyers, or financial planners. Everything you hear is for education and entertainment. It's not strict financial advice, you know. So use your best judgment, chat with a tax professional, and all those other people that you need to talk to. Thanks for tuning in today. Keep cruising on your journey to wealth and wellness. Bye-bye.
One of the most important things you can do is ensure you have long-term disability insurance. Long-term disability insurance secures your income if the unexpected happens and you are unable to work due to medical illness, chronic conditions, or an accident.
Unfortunately, all insurance agents aren't created equal. Some of them are so focused on making a sale that they fail to reveal certain necessary information, tell you about discounts available, or clearly explain the process. Pradeep Otto and his team at PKA Insurance Group are different. They have a reputation of putting people over profits and always doing what's best.
If you need life insurance or disability insurance, reach out to Pradeep and his team today. They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.